Mad Moxxi's Underome Riot fucking sucks. I try to be fair and impartial and really look for the positives in regards to these videos, but honestly, there is so little to actually enjoy with this expansion. I'll keep this one short and sweet since I don't want to devote more time than I believe this expansion is owed. So yeah, like and subscribe, follow on Twitch, blah blah blah. Let's get this over with. Borderlands' first expansion was far from perfect, but it had plenty of enjoyable qualities that I think most people who enjoyed the first game could find some enjoyment in. This though, this shit right here, it's honestly one of the biggest wastes of times that I can think of out of any AAA game that I've ever played. The Vault Hunters begin their new quest with an introduction to the character Mad Moxxi, a rather promiscuous Harley Quinn cosplayer who seems to get off to the idea of us winning in her arena called the Underome. I guess that's as good of a motivation as any, so our Vault Hunters accept the challenge and compete in her 3 separate arenas. Eventually they clear all 3 challenges, and that's it. Yep, there's not really a story. The only dialogue we get are the callouts in the arena from Moxxi, which range from annoying.
I spilled something on my... Damn it! Oh, and yeah, nice wave, whatever. Damn.
To things so overtly sexual, even someone like this ugly fucker starts to cringe.
You get your rocks off by killing people? That's just sick. Just sick. You know, I'm kind of sick myself.
So we have a more gameplay-focused expansion built around the idea of arena combat. Now that could work. I've enjoyed plenty of arena modes in games such as Kingdom Hearts, God of War, and Ratchet & Clank. Those games saw the arenas often stretch the combat to its logical limit and offer fantastic rewards upon completion. Mad Moxxi's Underome Riot does neither of those things. This expansion offers one quest. One quest.
What is that? What the fuck is that?
That quest, complete each of the 3 arenas. The arenas are all essentially the same, offering different layouts and slightly different visuals, but no gimmicks to set them apart from one another. Each arena has 5 rounds with 5 waves each. Wave 1 is some small fodder enemies, Wave 2 has enemies that typically wield guns, Wave 3 is the Horde round featuring melee foes, Wave 4 has a bunch of badasses, and Wave 5 has you face off against one of the reused bosses from the main game. That's it. You do that order 5 times in a row across 3 arenas, and that's the entire quest. Fuck, actually the entire expansion. There are no alternative objectives, no special enemies, just a standard round-based survival challenge with enemies you've been fighting since the beginning of the game. There are some slight enemy variations between the rounds to keep it somewhat fresh, but for the most part you are doing the same things over and over and over again. As the waves progress, some certain modifiers begin being added that can alter the difficulty slightly. Maybe sniper rifles will do more damage. Or maybe there'll be lower gravity. Or maybe there'll be a vampire effect where you are constantly losing health, but you regain it by killing enemies. These modifiers are alright, better than having nothing at all I suppose, but they still don't really change how the game is played. If I saw a modifier that said that critical hits and SMGs were stronger, I didn't switch to that weapon. I stayed using the same thing that I have been using the whole game, and it continued to work just about as effectively as it did otherwise. Dying was an increasingly scary factor in this expansion, because failing to get a second win meant resetting the round, which meant more time wasted. Thankfully, I was able to convince someone to join me on this romp, so we could keep each other alive. If someone was to perish, they would be sent to the penalty box, an area in an elevated position above the map where they could thankfully still contribute to the damage as long as their other teammates stayed alive. They could then be re-added to the beginning of the next wave, thankfully saving us from a few resets. Yeah, that was a good way to waste about 10 to 15 minutes and piss me off. Speaking of wasting my time, let's talk about the rewards you get from completing this. First, and honestly the best thing you get with this DLC, is an item bank. It is something that can be useful in the early game due to having very limited inventory slots, but will become useless later on as your inventory expands. Next, and probably my least favorite, killing enemies doesn't net you any XP or cash. It seems like you can still complete challenges and gain XP that way, but none from killing the standard enemies. After the expansion was said and done, I gained less than half of a level. Fuck that, that's stupid. The loot dropped at the end of each round was also a total waste of time. After all 3 arenas were completed, my reward was a fucking skill point.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
Something that I could have gotten multiple of if the game allowed me to get experience from the enemies I was killing. The real kicker was the other reward for finishing the main quest, and get ready for this. You unlock a new mode for all 3 arenas, which has 20 rounds, so essentially 100 waves. Well, that was a load of shit. And I know what you're thinking to yourself. oh, Mr. ItsGheb, there's gotta be something good at the end of these gauntlets, right? Or maybe if you complete all 3 of them, something really cool will happen. Maybe you'll get a nude photo of Moxxi or something, I don't know. Well, let me tell you, I went ahead and figured out what that reward was. But I didn't play through each one, because I'm not a total sucker. You fooled me once with that brain bullshit in the last expansion gearbox, you're not gonna fool me again. So what do you think you get for slogging through 300 waves of enemies? Achievements. Just don't. Going through each of the arenas was almost like a transcendent experience. At first I was interested in the prospect of arena combat, and even though Moxxi's dialogue was cringy, I thought it was at least entertaining. When the second wave of the first arena began, it hit me. This was all the DLC was. I started thrashing it a bit and having fun with how hollow the experience was, but eventually the monotony began to get to me, and I felt like my soul was being drained. I started taking more breaks, I went and got some food, took some phone calls, just really not paying attention to the game at all. I got really depressed during this time and started thinking about my life decision to make a video about a shitty 12-year-old DLC that most people got included in the base game. Then, I started getting angry. Disconnecting causing us to restart, deaths that caused the rounds to begin anew, the stupid fucking modifier that took away our shield. God, those sucked. It got to a point where I started getting slap happy and numb to the experience. I started wondering what was in the purple capsules being tossed at the end of the round. Is that mean? We had someone who was 13 levels below us join for shits and giggles, and then we had a duel in the middle of a round of the arenas. Everything was on the table at this point, and when we got to the end, hollowness of seeing all of our efforts wasted, a lackluster reward, and a middle finger to us players. There are 2 good things about Mad Moxxi's Underome Riot. It's short, and I essentially got it for free. This was originally priced at $9.99, same as the Zombie Island of Dr. Ned, but this is a massive, massive step down. I would have been furious if I paid $10 for this. I would have been upset if I paid $1 for this utter waste of time. Thankfully, pretty much everyone who owns this has got this through the Game of the Year edition by now, but I strongly believe that this is not worth your time. I put about 3 hours into this, and I want that time back. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to share with me why you think this DLC sucks in the comments below. Next time we're looking at the Secret Armory of General Knox, a DLC that I have heard is much, much better than this one. So if you enjoyed the video today, go ahead and consider giving a like and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.